Well, hello. Welcome to the Art of Renovation Live. I'm your host, Paul Foster from Contact Renovations and Custom Homes. This week, we're going to be talking about job site safety. So, now the intent of the show today is going to be ultimately to kind of coach you through how to set up your site properly, whether you're a DIYer at home or whether you're hiring a contractor and you want to make sure that they're adhering to some safe practices. So we'll talk a bit about how we do it and kind of what expectations would be as far as making your site safe and reducing liability and all that. So my guest this week is Jamie Young. He's one of the founders of Safeopedia. And Safeopedia is an online environmental health and safety resource, and they have tons of free educational content like articles, Q&As, webinars, videos, definitions, and more. So they're a great resource as far as checking to see what protocols to follow, getting advice about what PPE to use, and just generally a great resource in regards to safety across the board, whether it's in the residential, commercial, industrial side of things. So I can see Jamie's joined in here, so I'm going to just pull him into the call. Bear with me for a sec. Oh, hold on. Here we go. So we'll let him join up here, and I'll go and wait for him to join the call, and I'll put up the background with all
howdy,
the
howdy.
There he is. Welcome, Jamie. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, that one doesn't work very well. Let's try a different one here. All the formatting and stuff here, but anyway, I'll have to pull another one up later that better shows it. But so Jamie Young, co-founder, Safeopedia. Tell us a bit about yourself, your company. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Paul. Myself, been kind of in the construction sector for almost my whole life, 25 years or so, and it was primarily in cost management.
Your whole life, 25 years. Wait.
Wow.
Hold on. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, right. You don't know what it takes to keep looking this young. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Yeah.
But
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, it's good now. Try being 30 years old looking like a 13-year-old. So that's not helpful. So yeah, construction, mostly up in Fort McMurray. Traveled around the United States, New Orleans, Atlanta for quite a while, implementing cost management solutions. And then other co-founder, Scott Cuthbert, reached out to me, and we actually had a software company prior, and he said, hey, I got this idea called Safeopedia. And I said, I'm in. And he said, well, I haven't even told you what it is. And I kind of said, well, safety, kind of like a Wikipedia. And he's like, yeah, more or less. And then simultaneously, we were kind of talking to our third partner, Corey Jansen of Investopedia fame and AltaML now and Techopedia and all these other Opedias. And yeah, we launched Safeopedia, kind of went full steam about 5.5 years ago now. God almighty. And yeah, it's been a wonderful roller coaster. So ultimately, we're trying to give, we think safety information should be free. And that's what we do. We publish free educational safety information, primarily in the occupational space. And yeah, if we can do anything just to keep one person safe, then we're doing our job. So that's really Safeopedia's mission.
Awesome. I asked you to shoot over a little bio earlier. And one thing I pulled out of it, it was much too long for the purposes of this. But, Jamie believes everybody has the right to get home safely to their families. He'll do everything he can to promote and achieve a safer working environment. And I think that was something I pulled out and went, man, that's great. I think that's how we should all feel, especially contractors, right? So yeah. For today's show, I was like, well, I'd like to do one on safety, and maybe people will find it boring. But in my mind, it's definitely not boring, because the risking, that comes along with the type of work that we do is so significant. And the purpose of my show is always to be educational and help give advice to those DIYers that might be out there considering their own projects. And I think that often they won't quite understand the risk of some of the jobs they're taking on themselves, right? So
100%.
yeah. Anyway, so we've got a few friends that are watching the show today, which is awesome, and a few people from your network and mine. And I think in the end, the goal is to help people to understand more about some of the risks that they're going to take on when they take on this summer project or this project at home themselves. And also, I think to help understand why, as a contractor, like why my overhead is what it is, or why my cost of operating is what it is. Because when it comes to safety, there's some serious considerations there and practices and procedures that we put in place that cost me money, right? Which in the end gets passed on to the client, because I need to make sure that the work is done safely. Of course, you want it on time and on budget, but the minute somebody gets injured, there's a delay on the job site, right?
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
And I think that, maybe the client doesn't always understand why it costs X number of dollars to do a project, and not getting that maybe there's 12 hours of safety time factored into their project, whereas they might not consider that on their end because they don't really understand our process. So that's kind of the intent of the show today, is to coach everyone through so they understand what they're taking on and how to kind of avoid or be prepared for some of the risks. Before we go too much further, let's talk about the giveaway item today.
Hey, yes.
So one of your partners, Concept Controls, has ponied up. We have 5 prize packs today. Okay, so in each of these 5 prize packs, we've got 2 pair of Ergodyne safety glasses. One's clear, one's tinted, so sunglasses. We have 1 pair of Ergodyne work gloves, 1 tumbler, and 1 ladies V-neck shirt. So there's 5 of those prize packs today. So to be eligible for the prize, I'm going to put up an image of a task, and you just need to comment what PPE someone should be using when you see that task. Now, some of these pictures, for example, this dude is breaking out some tile with a sledgehammer. So you might just comment what he should be wearing. You see he's wearing a glove. There's a subtle hint. But where might that shrapnel be flying from the tile? It might hit him in the face, so maybe wear some glasses. So just comment a PPE product. PPE is personal protective equipment. So, and then you'll be eligible to win the prize pack, which, like I said, we have 5. So we'll be giving out a few of these today. These pictures aren't showing them super well, but there's kind of one of the boxes plus a t-shirt there. What's your relationship with Concept Controls? Where do they come from, and why are they giving us stuff for the show?
Yeah, well, first of all, they are started out in Canada. They are one of our independent distributor, I should say. Partners through our other partner, Safety Network, which is a group of independent distributors across North America, and Concept Controls is the primary Canadian distributor. Become good friends with them over the last 3 years, and they are awesome. So Ryan over there was gracious to put forth these awesome Ergodyne, and I you can't stress it enough. Ergodyne is awesome. They're cool. They're hip. I mean, you name it. You want to get your hands on. I even have a pair of these Ergodyne sunglasses already, and they're a bunch of sunglasses or safety glasses. They can look really tacky or terrible, but they've done the right thing. So awesome. Ryan, Ergodyne, Concept Controls, Safety Network. Really appreciate everybody being our partners.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. So while we're talking about glasses, now, of course, I keep showing these photos in the background, and then my image is always in the way. So this is one of those close call images, and you can't see it well, but if you look at that dude, he's got part of a zip disc blade stuck in his safety glasses. So, I know I personally have had a really close call with glasses when I used to work as a chainman out in the bush, and I had a branch jam into my glasses and actually get wedged into my glasses, like saved my eye. So, safety glasses, super important piece of PPE, absolutely. But anyhow, let's just go fast for questions and stuff before we move on in the show here. Bear with me. I'm just going to quickly stroll through here. All right, we got Smitty77. Guy breaking
Craig
down should be wearing gloves. He is. Impact resistant glasses, hearing protection, and if there's a possibility of silica dust exposure, an N95
Oh,
respirator. Something tells me this guy is not just your average civilian. He must know something about safety. You know who Smitty 77 is?
yeah, that's Craig, and yeah, he is not even close to average. Craig is a manufacturer partner of Safety Network named Moldex, and got to tell you, Moldex has been stepping up during COVID, producing, I think you mentioned 3 times the capacity. They produce N95 masks along with another bunch of other masks and respiratory and hearing protection. So they've been outstanding during this whole pandemic. So right on, Craig. Glad you could join.
Nice. And I got a question here from Alyssa. So how do I know if my contractor is following safety procedures? So that's a really good question, Alyssa. I think that that's a tough one to know unless you straight up ask your contractor, what are your safety protocols? And I mean, it should be pretty obvious. If you walk in a job site, you should be able to tell whether there's been any thought put into it. I was just trying to find a picture here for you. So this is on one of our sites, so I can't see the picture, is terrible. But so we have these first aid stations that we set up, and basically it's big sign, first aid. We've got our eye wash bottle there, our first aid kit. Some PPE is there now. We have hand sanitizers and masks available for people for COVID-related matters, but we've always had these for safety too. So, I think in your contractor, is there, are they taking risks that look like they're being careful? But I would say if you're not too sure, just ask your contractor, what do you do to address safety in our home, right? Because there is often a concern of liability, right? Whether it's, do they have WCB? Are they following safe workplace practices, all that kind of stuff. So
actually, Paul, I wanted to say that earlier. You made a comment, but safety is largely invisible until something happens. And like you said, at that point, it's too late. So how do you know if a contractor has, like, what do you ask? How do you know a contractor is doing the right things? They are taking precautions. They're understanding the risks ahead of time. Like good referees are invisible, but bad referees, it's kind of thing. So
absolutely. So for the show today, I was thinking about different ways we could position the conversation and how do we talk about it. And I thought we could base it around the scope and the risks and the challenges around a bathroom reno, because I think a bathroom reno is one of those sizes of projects where many homeowners feel they can do it themselves. And I'm not saying you can't. You certainly can, but I need you to understand what it is you are agreeing to by deciding that you can handle your own bathroom reno. Okay, so there's a lot to consider. So I guess that'll be kind of the angle on the show today, as we're going to start with this bathroom. This is one of our projects, and it was already a beautiful bathroom, but the client wanted to modernize it. So what we'll do is we'll kind of run through some considerations to take before you start your bathroom reno, so you have a chance to think it through. And then from there, we can talk about some of the risks that come with it and all that stuff. So, do you know Parista Mara?
I do. Tamara.
There you go.
How you doing?
He says hi.
Yeah,
she's
a Safeopedia person. Right on.
All right,
Happy she could join.
Welcome to the show. Okay, so bathroom reno. So I guess, something to consider when you're taking on your bathroom reno is you have a variety of demo processes to go through, right? You're going to have plumbing and electrical disconnections. You're going to have more demo specific tasks like smashing out tile and drywall. You might have plaster, you don't know, or do you? There's a different way to approach it if you do have plaster. You're going to have some really heavy and awkward items to remove from there. You're going to have some potentially contaminated items. So, if you're taking drywall out or plaster walls, you might have to consider, you might have asbestos compound or asbestos within some of the compounds. If taking on any insulation, you might have vermiculite insulation, so you might need to consider abatement there as well. You might be exposed to mold, depending on whether you've had a leak. Is that the reason why you're renovating? Is there obviously something wrong with your bathroom and it's time to gut it, fix the leak, and put it back together? And so the things to consider there. You're going to have potentially HVAC work to consider as far as like your bathroom fan and all that kind of stuff. So there's quite a large variety of types of work and demo tasks that will be involved. So let's start with step one. And
Yikes.
we'll go from there. So I guess let's talk about firstly access. Okay, you're going to reno your bathroom. This particular bathroom we're going to talk about today is on the second story of a very nice home. And so we have to think about how would we access the space? What's the safest way to get this material in and out? And the only interior access to this bathroom was through a grand central spiral staircase in the center of the home. Baby grand piano underneath it, all open concept throughout the house. And we recognized that it was just too risky to be using these carpeted stairs to go in and out the whole time, and it was too much risk for collateral damage in the home. So what we did here, which is, I guess it's fair to say we're not your average contractor, we did something a bit different to make sure that we mitigated these risks here. I'm just gonna try to find the image, but we basically built a giant scaffold to access this home. So that's how we accessed the second story. So we put up this scaffolding. Well, we didn't put it up. We hired a, licensed scaffold contractor to come in and put in this scaffold for us. And that ensured that we had a safe way to get in and out of the house. These weren't carpeted circular stairs, which are, or spiral stairs, which are really tricky to navigate, especially when you have, say, 80 pounds of material in your hands when you're taking all this tile out, or you got a big giant tub you're removing. So if you're going to put up some scaffold, you might want to make sure somebody who's certified, and this had to be re-inspected monthly to make sure that it continued to be safe, because this is a structural build as far as the scaffolding is concerned. So access, how are you going to do it? So now we have this big bathtub here. You need to get that tub out. How are you going to carry that tub out? That tub, that's a fiberglass unit. That thing probably weighs, not too bad, it's 75 pounds, but it's very awkward. That was a 2-person jacuzzi soaker tub. So very large. How are you going to get it down and out of the space, right? So consider that. If you're a homeowner and you're on your own doing this reno, well, you better think about how you're going to do that safely. What we do, unless we're trying to salvage it, is we would cut this up into pieces, right? If you're going to cut it up into pieces, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
What should you use to cut it?
Well, I'm already calling somebody. It's way over my head.
Right. So basically, you can sawzall this thing in half.
Sawzall.
You could take a grinder with a zip disc, and you could grind it. But either way, I mean, that, what do you think? Yeah. Aha! Giveaway alert time. Here's a still testing question. What would you need to wear for PPE if you're going to cut this tub in half? I guess it depends. Does it depend on what you're going to use? Let's say you're going to use a sawzall. You're going to sawzall this tub into 2 pieces. What are you going to need? Just answer that into the comments, and you're qualified to win one of our 5 giveaway packs today, which is we've got 2 pairs of safety glasses, a pair of gloves, we've got a tumbler, and we got a t-shirt. So you're cutting a bathtub in half. What kind of PPE are you going to use? Anyhow, I'll give you a hint. You should have some gloves, some glasses, and some hearing protection, because the sawzall's loud, the zip disc's loud. They're both going to have a whole bunch of dust. And then also it's going to be sharp. If you've got a old 50s wartime bungalow and you've got a cast iron bathtub, that bathtub is going to weigh between 500 to 800 pounds potentially. So now we cut those in half all the time too. So now you have loud, sharp, shrapnel, and now you have like super heavy material to move out. So you need a buddy, and you need a plan. Like, can you imagine taking that bathtub out down this scaffold setup that we built? Like, there's some serious logistical stuff to consider for your project. So for your demo of a job like this. Yeah. Anyhow, I skipped a step here when I said take your tub out. You need to disconnect your plumbing lines. And that's something that, you should consider. What is going to be, like, you have pressurized water lines, right? So if you can't If you don't know how to turn off your water, isolate it to your bathroom, then you're turning your water main off. Well, you got a problem now. You have no water in your house until, so you probably should have a plumber come by and put on some shutoffs for you, right? But in the walls, you're going to have plumbing lines. You need to make sure that you're prepared to deal with that if you happen to run a little wild with the Sawzall when you're doing some demo and you happen to, hit a line. That's a legit issue. Like if you look in the floors underneath your tubs and stuff, there's a variety of plumbing lines, electrical lines, drainage. Sometimes you have hydronic floor heat to consider. So that's another heated pressurized water line. So there's lots to consider when it comes to your demo, of your bathroom.
And I noticed we had a 1951 built house, and of course we went into the wall, and like you said, there was no shut off at the right there. You had to, it was the main, and then knowing, again, hiring somebody is the right thing for someone like me to do, but knowing to maybe then put in some valves right at the tub so you can turn the water lines off there for future or for any issues. But yeah, the things you learn when you're in the middle of a project, sometimes better to hire the professional.
Absolutely. And so in this image here, this is from that same bathroom. So what we ended up doing was turning the water off to the house, and then we added some shutoffs, but we also cap all of our water lines. We don't like to have shutoff valves on them because you can knock a shutoff valve. You can knock it and slightly open the valve by accident. It doesn't take much. Like one of those perfectly placed bonk with a piece of lumber you're moving can open a valve up. And that can be catastrophic, right? Not only does it cause damage in your house, but can you imagine you got an armful of stuff, you just bonked your shutoff valve, and now there's water everywhere. You're on a floor covered in debris, and you got 50 pounds in your arms. Like you're now on a skating rink now, and you're panicking. So, I would plan it in a way where just cap the lines. It costs more for us. We have a plumber come in on all of our jobs, and then we do disconnections. We pay for that service. They come and disconnect everything. We cap all the water lines. And so one of these, the different ways to do it, there's a product called a shark bite you can use, which I hate because I've had shark bites fail before. So we typically have them come in and crimp on caps so that we're safe there and there's no issues with, or potential issues of flooding and all this other stuff that can come out of it. So, so consider like your water lines, you got to disconnect them. You should have a plumber come look at doing that for you, unless you've got reliable shutoffs there. Then you have to get your plumbing fixtures out. So your toilet, like your average toilet's going to weigh between 50 to 80 pounds. So that's an awkward thing to move a toilet. Yeah. You're hunched over. Nobody likes to touch them in general. So another reason to wear gloves. And they're awkward to move around. And then, they are porcelain. So you drop one of those things, they're going to break. You're going to have some pretty sharp pieces around there. It's definitely an issue. So, so anyways, so your plumbing disconnections, that's one thing to consider. Then you get into electrical disconnections, and that's another thing where, especially in older homes, it can be a little bit of a wild card as far as what you're going to run into when you start to do electrical demo in your bathroom. And that's something, again, to consider calling in your electrician because, code has certainly changed over the years. And, whether you have 2-wire, aluminum wire, knob and tube, maybe you have good 3-wire now, but either way, if you had a homeowner do a reno himself at some point, him or herself, you might not have something that's actually that safe. And we've seen a lot of really dodgy stuff over the years. So, again, if you weren't too sure, if you had a buddy who's an electrician, call him over, take a look. If not, hire a guy. But I think it's worth it because you don't want to get electrocuted. You also don't want to burn your house down, right? So I know those are two extreme things. I'm not trying to scare you, but just got to be aware of the risk, right?
Doesn't take a lot. I think water and electricity are both pretty unforgiving if you do it wrong.
So let's say you got your electricals disconnected, your plumbing's disconnected, so everything's out. So your bathroom looks kind of like this. The next step is start breaking tile out. And so tile is like one of those things. I hate pricing tile demolition because you just never know. It might pop off with a little hammer and a cold chisel, no problem. It might come off, the tile might come off and leave the mortar bed on the drywall. It might come out with mortar bed and chunks of drywall. So again, you need to make sure before you do any tile demo or drywall, you've tested for asbestos because you want to know that now before you go and open that can of worms up to yourself as far as, risk and liability goes. So a real difficult tile demo will require basically a little jackhammer with a chisel bit on it. And again, now this process becomes very noisy. You have lots of shrapnel. So again, you're going to want to be running your gloves, your ear hearing protection, your glasses, and you're probably going to want to make sure that people in the house, if you're doing your reno on your main floor and all your family's in the family room underneath this, you probably want to have them go for a walk or something, because it's going to be loud and irritating for sure. But anyhow, so once you get all that tile out, and let's say you have to start getting into, you have an issue underneath your tub, or you need to relocate your drain, whatever that might be. So you're going to have openings now to cut into your subfloor. So again, you want to consider, how you're going to cut those, because if you run too long, if you run your Sawzall through that floor and you don't realize you got a couple water lines underneath the surface, you're in for a really, really ugly surprise. Because there quite often can be water lines right underneath your subfloor, especially if you have hydronic floor heat. That's a really common place where you'll find water lines really tight up underneath the subfloor, right? So you can be kind of precise about how you handle that demo. Jamie, what are you going to use to cut your subfloor out? What's your choice?
Nothing. I'm calling Paul to make that decision for me, because I know better, and I know my wife is back here saying, "Are you sure you got the right thing?" Right. So no, because it wouldn't be Sawzall or Skill Saw, and that would be probably the end.
And those are both the right tools. So you know what you're going to use. Make sure you have the right tool, right? You don't need a 9-inch long Sawzall blade to cut through 5-inch subfloor. Right? You can use a surface saw to cut it and just set your depth, so you're not going 1.5 inches through the floor, right? So those again are just things to consider when you're doing your demo. So great, you've got your subfloor opened up, and now you need to reposition things. Great. Obviously, maybe you want to call a plumber so you make sure nothing leaks. But here's a picture of one of my guys. Well, it's the lower half. So he's intentionally reaching down into the floor cavity right now, but it looks, when I first saw the photo, I thought he'd fallen into the floor, and I was like, oh my God, this isn't a concern. But, just be careful. If you have an open floor and you're walking around on the floor joists and you skip a step or you get hung up on a nail, like this could be quite a tumble for you. So, I think you want to consider some of the risks of having, it's not really an open excavation, obviously, but you do have a fall hazard there. So just be aware of that. Time is here, 1:30. Maybe we'll shout out the giveaway again. We have 5 of these prize packs, so I'd like to make sure we have enough people enter that we can give them away. So this week we have got 5 basically PPE prize packs. We got Concept Controls has donated 5 of these packs. So basically it's going to include 2 pairs of safety goggles, a pair of gloves, a tumbler, and a t-shirt. And to qualify, you just need to enter into the comments one piece of PPE you would use when completing, I don't know, this task. All right. You might not know what he's doing here. This is maybe the wrong slide to show, but this guy is removing insulation from an attic. And there's a bunch of reasons why he would do this. And it looks like he's wearing all the right PPE. I'm going to take for granted he's got earbuds in or earplugs in. But so there you go. You could enter gloves, eye protection. Oh, he's not wearing eye protection. That's a light. Would you need eye protection to vacuum out insulation? What do you think?
I'd be wearing it. I would. I'd wear goggles to avoid it. You know what's an invisible piece of PPE? Hydration. It's going to be pretty hot up there. How long you up there? So.
That's a great point.
Good.
You know what? Like
good time.
A lot of work in attics when we're rerouting. It depends what we're doing, right? We could be reframing roof sections, whatever it might be. It gets cooking hot in an attic, and it doesn't take you long to get, dehydration and heat stroke. So I think in the end, that's a good call. Safety guy, good call on hydration. So
hey, we I drink a lot of Squincher, the industrial the industrial hydration out there. So yeah, it's important. It's always and often forgotten about until again, like it's too late. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you go from this dude falling through the floor. Let's say that you've done your rough in change, you got your subfloor down, fantastic. And now you realize you need to go up into the attic because you want to change your bathroom exhaust fan. And, you know, any of these older homes, I can't remember when code changed, but it used to be roughed in with a 3 or 4 inch duct to pump your bathroom exhaust out to the exterior. Well, it's changed now. On average, you need 5 inches. So when you can't just go and swap out your bathroom fan without changing your ducting anymore. So when you go, well, you often can't. So you need to consider going into your attic to rerun it. So you might have vermiculite, you might have sawdust, you might have the wood chip or whatever, you might have blow in, you might have fiberglass, whatever you're doing. If you should test it to make sure that it's safe to go up there and disturb it. So this photo, this guy is vacuuming out the attic, and we do that for a variety of reasons. I mean, obviously, if we're abating, that's one reason to remove it, if it is vermiculite. Another reason is, you know, to be able to properly seal the vapor barrier, if you've had lots of penetrations, to be able to safely walk upstairs. If it's been topped up numerous times, you can't tell where any of the trusses are. There's a variety of reasons to do it. You know, go in and just check the insulation stops. So on bigger projects, we'll actually just factor in having somebody come in and vacuum out the attic. And in that way, it makes the life easier for the electricians. You need to run new pot lighting layouts, perhaps, or LED panel lights. We then have the opportunity to come in and spray foam the first couple inches of the attic. What that does is it seals all the penetrations and gives you like a very comprehensive vapor barrier. And then on top of that, we can blow in and top up to our, you know, I think R60 right now would be our code minimum. Not all houses can take it, but anyway, so that's one reason to do it. But I was trying to find a picture, but we had, I think 4 years ago, we had an electrician up in an attic working for us. And he stepped where he thought there was a truss, and he fell through the ceiling down one floor to the second floor. And he wasn't hurt, but it was quite a shock for all of us. And, you know, it had like some collateral damage. I had to pay to fix a ceiling I wasn't planning to. You know, so it's something to consider. So if you're going to do much work in your attic, there's, you know, don't just go up there, hey, I'm going to go and just add this duct. Think about what you're about to crawl through. You might have allergies. If you have fiberglass insulation in there, it can lead to, you know, an asthma attack because that was little fiberglass dust, whatever, shrapnel can get into your lungs and all that stuff. So I got a couple questions here. Oh, Tamara's talking about getting rid of any furry friends in the attic. Yeah, that would be one reason to suck that attic out for sure. Yeah. I got a pal of mine, Ken from Renovations, asking for recommendations for a great attic insulation or spray foam contractor. Yeah, we'll give a shout out to Details Installation. We use those guys. They actually just vacuumed out an attic for me the other day. So they're on our program. Cool. So, we'll talk to them actually on a show here in the future, hopefully. Anyhow, so moving on, you got to run your bathroom exhaust fan ducting out to your roof now. That means you need to climb on the roof to replace your roof vent, right? So that's if you're on a 50s bungalow, okay, whatever, you're 10 feet off the ground. But if you're in a 2-story, you know, maybe you have a really steep roof pitch, that's a whole, you need to be tied off. Like there's a whole ton of stuff out there to consider. So if you're before you go on the roof, you should probably think that one through. There's a lot we could talk about there, but I think we'll skip through roof access unless you have something you'd like to talk about. But I think it's so obviously risky. I would hope everyone thinks twice.
I've seen and done otherwise. Unfortunately, it's very easy just to I just got to go up on the roof and clean the gutters or check something out. People aren't tying off probably more often than not.
Right.
Especially if you're a do-it-yourselfer, then you know this is helpful. Knowing the risk, the liability, all that stuff. Paul,
for sure.
Thank you.
And that's kind of for me as a contractor though too, right? They're coming on my site. I need to make sure they're going to follow certain protocols, you know. And I think, you know, it's one thing if you got a 412 pitch roof. It's if you're running a 1012, well, that's a whole different thing. That's a very steep roof. You better, you know, my roofer better be tied off when he's up there. My HVAC guy better be tied off when he's up there doing his penetrations. Like there's a bunch of stuff to consider. But Tamara's asking, if you need confined space training to work in an attic?
I don't think so, no. But again, I have a safety publication. I'm not a safety expert, but tomorrow we'll find out the answer for you. I don't know the answer,
Right.
but that is a great question.
Yeah, no,
There's only
I would
one
agree. The
one hole.
X factor of safety just commented, you would not need confined space training to work in an attic, but it would be helpful to understand hazards associated with the space. I would agree with that. Like, we don't typically require it, but there is kind of definitely an FLHA to fill out before you go up there, right? So we kind of skipped over FLHAs. We should probably talk about that for a second.
Good call, Pedro. Thank you, Pedro. That's Pedro X Factor. He's got his own podcast.
Oh yeah,
he's great. Yeah.
Right. I'll put this slide up in the background for now, where we talk a bit about. So an FLHA, it's a field level hazard assessment, right? So on our team, our guys are supposed to, and I'll say that they do it every day without fail, but I know it's easy to blaze through it. But you sit down and you basically fill out a form that identifies, first of all, the risks associated with the task you have to complete that day, whether it be, it's a risky task, or whether or not you just need to, it's dangerous materials you're handling, whatever it might be. Identify those risks, and then how you're going to address them and minimize the risk associated with it. So, if you're going to crawl into a blazing hot attic on a day where it's 40 degrees outside, and it has bad ventilation in there to start with, you might want to think that through. And, what am I about to crawl in? What am I exposing myself to? Am I alone on the job site? Like, working alone, we have a policy in place that if you work alone on a job site, every 2 hours, you need to touch base with the office. We don't hear from you in 2 hours, someone's getting sent to your site to check in on you, right? And I think that in the end, if you're a DIY, or you're about to crawl up in your attic on your own, nobody's home, what if something happens up there? There's no lighting, there's a nail sticking out, someone hung something up there one day, you whacked your head on it, your eye hit it, whatever. Like, there's a lot of things to consider. I'm not trying to scare you, but
I know
you need to think it through first. Like, what are the risks associated with the task I'm about to complete? And what if the worst case scenario happens? Who's going to help me, and how will I help myself? Right? So,
well, you said vacuuming out the attic. How many do-it-yourselfers are vacuuming out the insulation? There could be nails all over the place under there. You have no idea.
Yeah. All sorts of stuff. You might find a special magazine collection that someone left up there one day too. Like, there's all sorts of shocking things.
Hot rods.
You just never know. Anyways, FLHAs, it's an important part. So if you're a homeowner, you're doing your own reno, you may not think it's necessary, but it's worth the 10 minutes it takes to think it through on the safety level, to make sure that you are covered in case something happens, or that you're prepared for it. And if you don't have the right tools to do your job, or the right PPE to be able to safely do the job, you shouldn't be doing that job that day, right? So for all my team, it's like, look, you go through and address what you need to get the job done. If you don't have it, well, it's getting rescheduled. And maybe it's only rescheduled an hour from now, after you have a chance to go back to the shop to get your tool, your material, or your PPE. Or if you realize, holy smokes, this surface might have asbestos, we never had it tested, which that's like a multiple day pause. We didn't expect to run into this material here. We didn't know that. It was impossible to know when we initially quoted the project. We've uncovered a layer of linoleum in a 50s bungalow that needs to be removed. Well, that should get tested. So you will hit pause and say, you know what, quickly get that tested, because you go and disturb it. I mean, linoleum is pretty low risk abatement, but you still need to know then where you're going to dispose of that, right? So it's a legit concern. So,
hey, Paul, do you ever come across like complacency in more experienced workers, where they've done it 1,000 times? Doing the risk assessment beforehand, or the FLHA, it's like, do you find that they can glaze over it?
Absolutely.
But really shouldn't, because then it's like you just reset yourself, you get focused. What do you see out there being
for sure, we all get
site?
complacent. It's hard not to, right? And I think for me as an owner, it's easier to step back from it and consider my liability always. And I hate to say, like, of course I care about my people, but I also don't want the liability, right? And I see it a lot, especially with my more seasoned guys. Like the newer carpenters that work for me, they're a lot more safety conscious. the older guys that have been around for 20 years doing this, you know, it's been a real cultural change within safety in the workplace. And I think they tend to be the ones that go, I know this. I know how to deal with this. This is not a risk for me. You know, and then, but things change every time. So complacency is it's real. It's like a struggle that we encounter regularly. And we see it in our homeowners too. Some are way more safety conscious than others, and some don't have a clue. Some don't care. And others are like right there. They understand that in a worst case scenario, if they hire a contractor who doesn't have the right insurance and doesn't have WCB, they could be held liable as the homeowner. So they're there, you know, mitigating risk on their end. So anyhow.
So ask, if you're a homeowner, ask, let me see your WCB, let me see your insurance.
Absolutely.
Aren't they liable? The homeowner could be liable too. Is that true?
Sure. I mean, if you're contractor, if you hire Kijiji Joe to come do your reno, I mean, you're opening the door up to some risk there. So you want to make sure that whoever you hire has got WCB, liability insurance, course of construction insurance, you know, all that stuff, right? Let's shout out our giveaway here. It's already 1:40. Man, the time flies by. So Concept Controls has offered up in conjunction here with Safeopedia 5 of these PPE prize packs. So it includes 2 pairs of safety goggles, a pair of gloves, a tumbler, which I call a water bottle, and a t-shirt. So to be entered into the draw, you just need to identify a piece of PPE you would use when doing which task. I had to pick a new task. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a task. You're cutting, looks like he's cutting concrete with a grinder. I guess So what would you use for PPE? Holy smokes. If you've listened to more than 3 seconds of the show, you should have a clue already, because it's showing he's wearing gloves, but that's loud, that's dusty, there could be shrapnel flying around. So give some thought to what a guy should be wearing, right?
Could be silica dust, which is
you're right. So
big bad wolf.
Yeah. So I think Kram Retsoff of NZ. Let's read that backwards. Kram Retsoff. Mark Foster. Wait, that's my brother. He just tuned in. He hardly ever tunes in.
Dust.
All right, Mark, good to see you.
N95 and face shield. Nice, Pedro.
So for sure, you want gloves. You need safety glasses. I'd probably run goggles, because you're going to have a bunch of dust blowing around there. You want a dust mask for sure. You want some ear protection, absolutely, right? So, and if he is cutting concrete, sometimes we'll actually steel toes. I mean, if you drop that grinder, I mean, yeah. Anyways, there you go. So our draw today, you just got to post in there a comment of what PPE, and then you're entered into the draw.
Cool.
I got a question here. I'm going to try open it up, but there's a couple glitches in this Instagram setup, whereas I push one button too many times, it turns my camera around. So I'm always scared to hit the right button. But that's
nobody wants to see what's on the other side.
Yeah, no.
Of your camera.
No kidding. Okay, so where were we? We've identified. So we're on the roof now. Let's talk about roof. Well, we're going to get off the roof, but talk about something that I think is hilarious. Not hilarious, but the pictures you find associated with unsafe ladder use.
Oh, God.
So ladders. So you're going to need to be on a ladder at some point in your reno, whether you're, removing something from the ceiling, a light fixture, you're going to be painting your ceiling, whatever it is. You need to make sure you know how to use your ladder properly. And before we get into the funny stuff, I want to show you a label here, because not everyone seems to understand this. So, it didn't crop properly. Anyways, every ladder has got a weight rating. So you should be looking at your ladder to consider, what kind of ladder you're going to use. Again, this slide, which I thought was cropped properly, was going to show you the ladder types, whether it's a step ladder, whether it's a extension ladder. You have there's a bunch of different types here. Extension ladders, step ladders, platform ladders, and then you have scaffold systems, right? But all of them are the weight ratings. If you look on the side of your ladder, there'll be a sticker like you see in the background here. So that's a type J, ladder size 8 feet. It's commercially rated good to 225 pounds. So you need to consider what it is, how much you weigh when you get on the ladder, right? And then how much your load is in addition to what you're doing. So if you're on the ladder, you're passing, whatever, you decided to re-roof, you're passing shingles up to the roof, you need to consider the weight of that bundle of shingles, which is probably 50 pounds, right? So, yeah. So just consider the weight rating of your ladder before you just get on it, and use the right one, right? You don't want to use a tiny little, 3-foot step ladder, and you cannot stand on the top step of a ladder. It's actually not a step. It's like, I think they call it a bench, or I can't remember what it's actually called technically. Someone can answer what the top step of a ladder is called in the comments. You're going to win a prize pack straight to you.
Stuff holder. Holds all my stuff.
Right. So
there it is.
But don't stand on the top of your ladder. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this dude's working up in the T-bar ceiling, and he's going to go for it. You know it. The minute he needs to reach up there and he's going to go for it. That's not a step. That thing's got a couple holes in it to put your hammer or tools in to hold stuff. It's got a little circular imprint to hold a can of paint. What it's not is it's not a step. All right. I think we can all agree on that. So please be careful.
Pretty sure it says that. This is not a step.
Yeah, it says right on it.
Every time.
Step, but nobody pays attention. So I'm hoping these photos, they aren't cropped properly. But this is a guy using a step ladder, leaning over top of an opening in a stairwell to do some work on the wall. And all it takes is that ladder to slide back, and he's about to fall about 14 feet. So that's the terrible way to use a ladder. This guy, well, at least he made a little platform. At least that's not on the top step of the ladder. But everything else in there is a fail.
3 ladders.
Yeah, 3 ladders.
3 ladders don't make it right.
No, he's got a couple tripping hazards on his little, makeshift scaffold setup he's built there. So, it's above a stairwell. You can get some specialized equipment to be able to access this stuff safely. So, keep that in mind. This guy. This
guy's a professional, though.
This guy. All right. I mean, he's made, that's quite, as far as MacGyvering things goes, I mean, good on him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not cool. And this guy, well, those are folding chairs. So, to set up your stepladder on a set of 4 folding chairs. And the smartest part is there at the back of the folding chair, which is where you apply pressure to fold the chair. Yes, I won't even talk about that any longer. So if you're going to use a ladder, just think it through, please. It's one of those things where it happens way too often. And, I was trying to get some videos to show in the background, but I couldn't get them to work. But anyways, just Google ladder fails, and it'll quickly remind you why it's important to be safe on a ladder, because, man, it's an easy way to get injured.
Yeah, no kidding. Aren't most injuries at a job site off a ladder or something to do with a ladder? I think a fall, slips, trips, and falls. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
Some comments here. I'm just gonna read them real fast. So let's see here. Yeah, original Ninja Martini. Oh, I know who that guy is. That's Ryan. All right, Ryan's shouting out. It's called a shelf. You're correct.
Shelf.
It's a shelf.
Nice.
All right, you've won yourself a PPE prize pack, buddy. All right, moving right along. We got Hiker 451 saying to wear gloves. Yes, we're running that zip disc or that grinder, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's already 1:48. Holy smokes. Guess we're wrapping this up soon. Okay. So I guess one thing I want to make really clear to you, if you've decided you're going to renovate your own bathroom, okay, good on you. I'm glad that you took it upon yourself to take on a project like that. But by doing so, you are basically putting out into the world that you are a plumber, an electrician, a tile setter, a drywall contractor, a painter, an HVAC contractor. You need to know minimum code requirements for all of those processes. And the minute that you don't adhere to one of them, it'll probably come back to bite you in the butt along the line. And you're like, painting, really? How bad could it be? Well, if you don't use the proper paint, you'll find out how bad it could be.
Yep.
Are you painting a latex paint over top of an old oil-based paint? Oh, you're going to find out real fast after a couple of showers and it gets all humid in there that you made a mistake, right? So
Yeah.
if you need some help, if you're like, I'm taking it on, I can't afford to bring in a renovator to do this. I want to do it myself, or, I feel like I've got the skill set to, like, good on you, take it on. Call me first. I'm happy to walk you through it.
Yeah.
I will lay out for you, these are the landmines you need to work around. Be careful for these specific things. You're not too sure, you can FaceTime me from the job site and I will help you, guide you through it. I don't want anybody taking off more than they can handle themselves, because in the end, it doesn't do anybody any good. Like, we should all have the confidence to do new things and try things, and, but I think we all need advice at some point. So please don't be afraid to reach out. I'll post my contact details later in the show here, and you can call the office and we can set up a consult if you need to. And I'm happy to give some advice.
I think you scared the crap out of me. I mean, all those other things in my mind, it's like, yeah, I could YouTube all that stuff and figure it out. But then you scared the crap out of me with, like, the hazardous materials, the dust, the asbestos, the things that YouTube isn't really going to help me with. That's frightening, right? And those are silent, invisible killers. Electricity can kill you pretty quick, but asbestos can get in there and get you pretty silently. So anyway, thanks.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Well,
thanks, Paul.
We talked about safety and complacency a bit earlier, and I think that's one of the topics where it's the worst is, asbestos and asbestosis, and people like, well, I've been exposed, and I struggle with that. It took me a little while to kind of turn the corner on that one too, because we've been exposed to it a ton. Like, I'm 45, so I've been around it for some time, and the older guys than me, even, they've had to work and be exposed to asbestos before too, and they tend to go, I'm still around, I'm good, and these are the guys that still smoke a pack of cigs a day and they're still giving her. And I think it's important now to understand, like, it's a legitimate risk. Like Tamara's point, it's an invisible risk. There's a ton of them out there, but asbestosis is not something to take lightly. So if you have a house that's, earlier than, like, I would say the mid 80s, you should be testing all your surfaces for asbestos before you demo. Not all of them, but the known issues. So your drywall compound, if you have plaster, your plasterboard and compound should be tested. Your insulation should be tested. If you have those little 9x9 tiles, those should be tested too, whether they're on the floor or ceiling.
Oh, God.
And some of those things are low risk abatement, so the cost isn't high, or you could maybe do yourself. But then it's like, where do you dispose of these things legally and safely, right? And that's kind of where we hear about guys just, I'm just going to bury that bag of, asbestos laden drywall into the bin. Nobody will know the difference. Well, really, like, this is our world. Let's take care of it together, right? So, anyways, it's 1:53. So at 2:00, the show just shuts down. Instagram goes back in and they kick us off. So we should probably get ready here to make the draw. I'll do last call on our draw.
Cool.
Okay, so Concept Controls, these guys, of course you can't see the whole logo, but they've donated five PPE prize packs for today. Here's a picture that's poorly cropped of them. Basically two pairs of safety glasses, a pair of gloves, a tumbler, and a t-shirt. So if you can answer just any piece of PPE, pick a piece of PPE out of the hat. Hey, hat could even be considered PPE depending on what you're doing. Maybe it's a hard hat.
Out of a hard hat. Yeah.
So
nice.
You just need to comment a type of PPE you're entered in the draw, and we'll make that draw in the next, probably 3 minutes or so. And Alyssa, or I guess I'll call her my producer for lack of a better term on this show, she'll do that in the background. She has a randomizer and she just sends me the winner, which will be great. So, and those things, you need to be local to Edmonton unless you're prepared to pay for shipping. But otherwise, you can come pick them up from either my office or Safeopedia's penthouse boardroom.
Yeah. Basement. Hey, if you're in North America, Safeopedia will pay for shipping. So if you aren't local and you're still winning, don't worry. We'll get you the box. It's Ergodyne stuff. You can't go wrong. So good.
Awesome. We should talk about these pictures, dust masks for a second, because they're more than a dust mask now. But like, we've always had to use masks of various types. when
Nice.
doing our work, right? And there's basically three different types. You have a dust mask, right? Then you have respirators, which is kind of a N95 mask would be considered a respirator, and then you'd have like the half face mask shown here. So it's a weird world out there now with COVID, and everyone wants a mask, and it makes it hard on us as a contractor to be able to buy masks now for work because they're in such short supply, right? So do you want to talk a bit about masks versus respirators at all for a second, or?
Yeah. From what I know that too bad Craig wasn't still on here. He knows a lot of it, but there is, the who am I protecting? Am I protecting myself? Am I protecting the other person? I think there's a lot of misconceptions of what kind of mask is doing what job. So yeah, I mean, N95, most of these masks that are, the cloth masks and anything, the ultimate goal of those masks is protecting the other people from a COVID perspective. And again, before disclaimer, check what your local government is saying, right? What kind of masks are they saying? Look at the manufacturer. What does Moldex say? If it's a Moldex mask or a Honeywell mask, it's always important to know. But one thing I've heard lately, just watching a Honeywell webinar the other day, was if you think that you're wearing an N95 or a mask with a valve on the front, you are not protecting anybody.
Anyone.
Because when you exhale, you are exhaling everything right out of that valve. So they look cool, and you're all Darth Vader-ish, but
right. Well, those are intended
protection
to protect
is
you, and those are intended if you're working in a contaminated environment, so you don't inhale contaminants, right? And so if you're taking on your project, you're starting the demolition phase. That's going to be typically the dirtiest stage of the project. Like, you don't know what you're going to be inhaling, so that's where you decide: am I going to use a common dust mask? Am I going to use it? Do I need an N95 respirator? Do I need a half face mask with the cartridges in it? And that's where you need to do your research and understand, right? So if you're not too sure, then err on the side of caution. And these half face masks with the cartridges, the respirator, they're not terribly expensive. I mean, they're harder to get now because of COVID, but we're seeing them come back into stock now. And you should be wearing something. And anyways, I guess enough about that. But so anyhow, we've got 3 minutes left, so we'll probably wrap it up. I mean, we could talk about waste disposal, all that kind of stuff too. I know that that's another legitimate thing, but not that important now. I think in the end, if you're going to take on your own project, I think good on you. Go for it. Just be smart about how you're going to do it, right? And if you need some help, like I said, you can reach out to me at the office, and I'm happy to help you out, give you some advice, kind of, so you can take it on your own. Here's my contact info here. So
cool.
You can call the office, you can email me, and I'm happy to talk it through with you a little bit, give you some advice. If you have specific questions about safety, you want to learn more, I think you should definitely go through and you should follow Safeopedia and use them as a research. I'm sorry that your information is not better cropped here, but
it's okay. You can't find me.
Right. Well, at Safeopedia, that's kind of seems to be
pretty much
handle across the board. So they have a great website, lots of resources.
It's all free. It's all free. Always free.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just waiting for Alyssa to send out the winner of. We're gonna have 5 winners here today, so it might be easier for us just to. Oh, hold on. I know I see a message just came through. Well, here we go. We got 5. I'll list them off.
Cool.
Original Ninja Martini, Hiker 451, Sameters, Peristamara, and the X Factor Safety. So I don't know you all. I know some of you, but I'll direct message you. And you've all won a prize pack, so congratulations. Thanks for participating in the show. We got 1 minute and 15 seconds. Jamie?
Cool.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate the opportunity. Hey, can I plug our virtual safety conference?
Absolutely, you can.
Cool. It's called Safety Connect. Check it out. Free to attend. Not like some other conferences. You don't have to pay. World-renowned speakers, actual physical virtual booths to check out people's stuff. It's going to be a great show. Check it out. Safety Connect.
Okay. When is that?
Not till October 20th. 3 days. lots of speakers, tons of prizes, giveaways.
Safety
It's
Connect, you say?
Yeah, Safety
Just
Connect
typing that
virtual
into
conference.
the comments for you there.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you,
25
Paul.
seconds
Thank you, the
left.
whole audience.
Yeah, thanks a
So
lot, everyone,
grateful.
for participating. Jamie, thanks for being my guest. This is the Art of Renovation Live. Be back next week, 1 o'clock every Tuesday. I'm Paul Foster from Contact Renovation, the Custom Homes. Tune in next time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye, Jamie.
Thanks, Alyssa.